these are some of the brands we work with, and we're going to be hearing from Jack from Sigma Sports today. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen now, and I'm going to invite the panelists to come on, turn their cameras on, and quickly introduce themselves. Hello, chaps.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. I'm Jack from Sigma Sports. Nice to be speaking to everyone. I've been at Sigma for 5 years and spent 5 years before that in the cycling industry as well. Sigma Sports are a multi-channel retailer with about 80% of our business happening online. And we specialize in selling road and gravel bikes. My title is Head of Ecommerce, and CRO is one of my responsibilities.
Excellent, thank you. Eoin?
Hi everybody, my name's Eoin Kenneally. I'm e-commerce director for Great Rail Journeys. I've been there just about 18 months, and we've specialised in sending slightly older customers on escorted holidays kind of through Europe and around the world. And prior to that, I was in travel with Parkdean, and then I spent 7 years at Hermes, now Every, leading their e-com charge.
You do let young people come on holiday if they want to book, though, don't you?
If you're younger, yeah. Can bring children, but probably not the best idea. Normally, our average customer age is about 65, so right. A little bit older.
Okay, excellent. And Luke, introduce yourself, bit of background. Oh, you're on mute.
Classic. Hi guys, I'm Luke, head of optimization at Loader25. Been here for 3 years, but been in CRO for 9. As John mentioned, I'm one of the happy Modo25ers that works well, like I said, in CRO. I also head up the SEO team as well, and I think we're just really big on like website all working in with one another. So I look after those 2 teams.
And before we sort of get into the well-crafted questions, and obviously the rehearsal went very well and we've done lots of practicing, the one thing I often think is in e-commerce, we've all got addicted to getting more traffic. And what's also happened is getting more traffic, the quickest and easiest way to do that is the pay-for-play way and just give Google and Facebook and etc. more money. And I often think a lot of brands overlook the biggest lever they could pull, which is improving conversion rate. And actually that traffic you're getting, actually if we went from 2% to 2.2%, actually that's a 10% improvement in everything we're doing. So actually everything we're already doing is going to be better by 10%. And I just think people often think, oh, well, we'll just spend a bit more with Google, or we'll change our ROAS target, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. So that's why it's unusual in a lot of performance agencies to have someone and a team that specialize in this. But for me, it's a complete missed trick. So that's why we're so excited about it. So I suppose if you could both just quickly sort of explain how long you've been A/B testing websites and what your different backgrounds are in that, and then we'll dive into some of the different tools you've used and those sorts of things as well. So Eoin, do you want to go first? How long have you been fiddling with websites?
It feels like I've been doing it for most of my life at the minute. But I think working at Hermes was probably the first time I kicked it off properly in terms of true testing. We A/B tested our entire website when we first created what you now know as My Hermes or Every. We split tested the whole site 50%, and we were running could be hundreds of thousands of visitors a week into the site at any given time. So it was huge to figure out if what we were doing was right or wrong. Then when I was at Parkdean, again, just through simple like checkout flow testing and optimization, and then into Parkdean, which testing is really, really new for Parkdean, but our customers not 10 years ago, online was a foreign word to them, whereas thanks to COVID and the pandemic, the customer is far more digitally savvy, and as people enter into our customer demographic, they all want to be online, and we've got to give them a much better experience than we've given before.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Jack? Where does sort of testing fit in for you?
Yeah, so it's always been a part of any of the teams I've been in. So in my previous role, it wasn't my responsibility, but did work closely with the team that ran them, and input in ideas and obviously change the way we do based on some of their outcomes. But yeah, since I joined Sigma, I'd say initially we had nothing. We had no A/B testing going on, and we managed to sort of get our own thing over the line in-house initially. We took it from there. And for the last 12 months, I think it's been you guys have been in charge of our operation, maybe a little bit longer. It's always been there. And again, like you said at the start, just trying to find the small gains that make a big difference once you roll it out over hundreds of thousands or millions of sessions are what we're really looking for.
And we won't get into the changes you made in the basket at Sigma because I know statistically it works, but it means I end up buying more stuff that I've forgotten I'd put in my basket.
Yeah.
Right? Speaking as a consumer.
That's the point, though, John. That's the point.
I was like, Luke, who's put this concertina in the basket? And he's like, yeah, but it works really well. Loads of people buy more stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I've just bought a load of gels that I didn't even want. I'm a happy customer, very happy customer. And I suppose with CRO, it's not just the sort of theory of, right, we're going to do some testing. There's often a lot of tech needed. So I suppose what different tools have you used in your sort of journey on this? And I suppose any positive or negative experiences that you've had. So I suppose, I don't know if you want to start, Jack, and just share different tools you've used. And I think, again, just on this, I don't think, and Luke's probably going to kick me because we've probably got a preferred partner that we're meant to be promoting, but I don't think any of them are a silver bullet that do everything. I think it's about finding the one that's like the best fit, is my own opinion. So I don't know, what's your experience, Jack?
Yeah, so the first tool we used was Adobe Target, and it was kind of used as an add-on to their recommendation suite at the time. And then we moved on into Google Optimize. It was a pretty strong tool in itself, but Google chose to sunset last year. And that left us in a bit of a difficult situation because, those are both third-party tools where we'd sort of signed up annual agreements. But now with you guys, you introduced us to Simplify. That's been really good, just to sort of have that connection through you guys. They're our current platform.
Yeah, and I suppose, Luke, from your point of view, having to recommend different platforms to clients, what are the positives and negatives, and how do we even choose a platform to use? And is it the same? Does the same thing work for everybody?
Very good question. I suppose, as always in CRO, the answer is it depends. I think there's
being a politician and working in CRO.
Exactly. I should
no straight answer.
That's it. I think there's a lot of options out there in the market. We've got good relationships with quite a few. I know one of them is on the call today, so hello. But what we can, like I say, it depends on what's actually happening and what a client actually needs. There's things like session volume, things like what different personalization elements, some that might need heat mapping, session recordings, those type of things. So we have partnerships that we work with, and if anybody wants to speak to us about those, more than happy to do so. But we also try and be as agnostic as possible. So as Jack mentioned, we use Simplify with Sigma. We actually ironically use that with Eoin as well at Great Rail. But we also have clients on different platforms. It just depends on a case-by-case basis of what they currently need.
And if I'm listening to this now, what are the key things that are important in picking a platform? And I suppose brand agnostic outside, what are the key elements, both for us suggesting the strategy and the tests, and both for the clients that are then having to implement the tests?
So for me, and I'll let Jack and Eoin chip in as well, but I think it depends on what your team's already currently looking like. So if you currently have people in your wheelhouse, I suppose, that can develop, I think that's the most crucial one for a lot of A/B testing platforms. If you have scope in the team or your engineering team to do so, I think obviously that's a big thing that helps. There's certain platforms that developers prefer for whatever reason, around how they work and function. So again, typically the three that spring to mind that our team like are Simplify, WebTrends, Optimize, and Optimizely. But there's lots more out there that depends what you want. That being said as well, if you just want something that's a little bit more simple, WYSIWYG, there's a lot more things out there which are capable. I mean, Eoin, I don't know particularly for you, how are you finding Simplify to use?
I think that when I first got into it, far more difficult than I expected. But then it had been a while, I think I've been given an opportunity to use Crown Peak and some of the CMSs that come with it out of the box, which was really easy to use. Whereas actually using Simplify, you do need a level of technical understanding. I'm able to go in, do some small things. You guys say I'm not doing a terrible job. Nobody tells me off, so I feel like I'm doing great. I think when you benchmark that against what's in the market, all of them, if you want to do anything complicated, require that level of dev experience and confidence in what you're doing, because you can do something great, but you can also do something that goes horribly wrong if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. And I don't think any tool yet answers that really simple, usability question out of the box. Can a layman use it without messing anything up too horrifically? But Simplify has been great, and we've done some great tests off the back of that.
Yeah. So it's what's the sort of analogy there? Once you get used to it, it's okay, but sometimes you need to sort of go at it steady and I suppose get a little bit of support and training.
Yeah, you need to be fairly confident, because what you're doing is going to go out into the world. And in our business, it's quite a small team that we're in, so trying to pull from Luke's experience, your guys' dev team, my own experience, and people in the business, trying your very best to do something that looks good, lands well, and works with the customer, and doesn't give that kind of awkward experience that some tools used to have, where you'd see quite a lot of flashing before the actual new rendered test would appear over the top. It's good for that.
And then what you don't want is the boss looking on the iPad and go when the test doesn't work, and then suddenly going, "What's going on?" So
yeah, if you're working with an older website like ours, it's really hard to account for everything. But
it's almost, until you actually hard code the results in it, it's difficult to factor for every device and everything. And I think that's the other thing, is no tests are perfect, are they? It's about understanding, well, why are we doing it, and are we going to get some statistical significance? So I suppose we're doing this to get results and ultimately sell more stuff or give the users a better experience. So I suppose we've already alluded to your checkout test, Jack, which has got me buying more stuff. So it clearly works. But I suppose, what other tests have you been doing? And I know Luke said we should talk about just the good ones, but the whole point about testing is you also have bad ones, and then that's also a learning, isn't it? And that's part of it. So I suppose, what tests have you done? What's gone well? What's gone? And I suppose the interesting thing for me sometimes is the hypothesis is really, that's going to work, and then you run the numbers, and actually, surprisingly, that didn't work, and the numbers don't lie. So I suppose, what have you got you could share with the audience?
Yeah, I would just say on that checkout one, a test we ran in October, developed in the first half of November, and then rolled out onto the website the week before Black Friday. So having produced a win, it was a real tight turnaround, but getting that in before the biggest week of the year was a real achievement. But yeah, we've done lots of testing in other areas. We've gone at the top of the funnel, so a new layout of the homepage that produced a win and more interactions. We've gone far down the other end and into the checkout, as mentioned there, and really refined a stage of the funnel that's quite close to purchase. But yeah, we've also got wins out of the navigation and product pages. One of the areas we probably were most surprised by in the product page is a sort of a sticky add to basket button, if you like. We've had versions of that have won on mobile, but have never managed to win on desktop. So yeah, that's been one of the ones that surprised us. And yeah, we have been through a number of options, and the sort of the next thing we're looking at is a much broader, bigger test on the product detail page. So it's been quite good fun at the moment to go through the design process for that and move towards rollout over the next few weeks and months, I hope.
Okay, good. And what about yourself? What recent tests have you had? Because I think it's a bit harder. Well, no, different. It's hard selling stuff online, full stop. But it's different selling a cycling jersey or a bike to it is a £10,000 holiday.
I think our products at that slightly different price point and a slightly different customer. They require quite a lot of trust to check out online. And the intent is different. It takes about 6 weeks from when we get them to when they actually go on to make a purchase. But working with Luke, we've done some great homepage tests recently. We're trying to drive more interaction to our search box off the homepage. that was about a 27% increase in kind of search usability and intent, and I think that was fantastic. And we're gonna go back and revisit that with a slightly tweaked design, more for aesthetics than actually for practicality. But the important part of the test was, can we make customers do what we want them to do? And actually we can. And then we drove 20% more people into our individual search box. And then coming down the pipeline, we've got a good test in the funnel to try and improve performance. Because since I've been here, I can't give out the actual numbers, but actually the mobile customer interaction rate has rocketed off. You know, it's a huge percentage of our traffic, but it's not a site built for mobile. But actually, with what Luke and Mike and myself have been working on, allows us to kind of look at that checkout flow and see if we can get the customer through in a little bit of an easier way, and a bit more of an interactive way.
And
So
do you bundle in mobile and tablet together, or is it actual mobile?
actual mobile. So I've separated them out, and even in the Google stats, tablets on the way in, but it performs comparative to desktop in terms of conversion performance, whereas mobile really struggles. The volume's there for the customer and the depth of search is there. And it could be that some customers have said they like to go onto the big internet to make big purchases, but customers have made big, substantial purchases just on their phone, which I think is astounding for what they're going to buy, and shows good trust and loyalty in the products. But we can always make that better.
Yeah, I suppose it'd be interesting to understand, and maybe we can pick this one up offline, but is there any correlation? Because on Sigma, they do sell expensive bikes. And is the logic and thought process and time and everything around buying an expensive bike similar to buying a holiday? I've never really thought of it like that, but it is a considered purchase. And it
six weeks is funnily enough the number we talk about as, you know, kind of, I'm going to buy a bike to finally clicking the buy button. So yeah, we do talk about that longer lead time as well in terms of what a customer wants. And recently sat with Luke looking at the difference between the browsing experience for customers who are viewing £5,000, £8,000 bikes. They're there for information, for rich content. They want to look at more bikes. And then at the other end of the scale, we've got, you mentioned energy gels, John, that you needed, or inner tubes and tires. You know, they're things that are needed, you know, much faster moving, and we're working on making the experience about making it
two different websites.
Correct. Yeah, making it a fast, frictionless experience and getting people into the checkout quicker and things like that. So yeah, it is a challenge, but yeah, I absolutely understand what's being said in terms of long considered
It's
purchase.
almost like you need like the Amazon experience, quick and efficient and practical for your lower value products, but then you almost need the luxury travel experience for the high-end bikes. So, and I suppose how this must be tricky for you, Luke, dealing with clients that've got all these different tests that they're trying to do. So I suppose how do you manage that, and what things have you been working on with the guys?
So I think that's the nicest thing for me, is like working in that variety of different clients and seeing how certain trends, as you just mentioned, can 8 to 10,000. I think there was there a Lamborghini bike that you had at one point, Jack?
Yeah.
That was very expensive. Translate through into a holiday to Thailand or Switzerland or whatever. And like, are there any themes or patterns that we can recognize across different verticals that can help one another? And that's the best thing about having such differences, I think, as well. Like, particularly some of the great work that Eoin mentioned as well that we've done together with the search has worked out in the office leasing space. And there's like random correlations like that.
You can get a link into the bin waste contract space as well. I'll be very impressed.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the best thing about us as an agency, is we have such a variety of clients, and there are key themes, and potentially some things are price points. Sometimes they're all on Shopify, for instance, which, you know, are make it relevant, I suppose, or trends that can help improve websites. I think, like you said, some of the good ones Eoin and Jack have mentioned, but it's more for me. I think when we can fix the upper funnel, or start to get the link between homepage search right through into product pages, that's where it's really special in terms of the uplifts you can get from CRO.
Yeah. So I suppose with all this though, it's not just around A/B testing, right? There's other things we can do and we can test. So I suppose, Jack, what other things have you been doing to maximize more revenue, get more conversions outside of just blue button versus red button? I know that's always a very basic example, but what else have you been doing?
Yeah, we've actually sort of done a bit of a review of some of the third-party technology on our site, but also been quite lucky to be offered some trials of some technology that we've run CRO tests in partnership with Luke and Modo. So one is a product recommendation company called Dual ML, who are American, but we've tested their recommendations against our current platform through the tool, and it was really useful to sort of validate the difference that made compared to what we were expecting. We've also run it on a sizing tool that we had on the site, just to get an update really on kind of what difference that was making to conversion. It's a tool that's been sat on the site for 3 years. Does make a difference, but it was just good to check in and see what kind of a difference it was making. The world's very different to how it was 3 years ago, so it's good to sort of run the rule over some of these tools every now and again.
And just for the people who don't know what Joule does, what does it do for you, and how does it work, and what results do you see?
It's an AI recommendations model. Obviously, I don't know every in and out, with all AI, but it effectively is for recommending similar products, recommending products people also bought with an item, and also displaying recently viewed products. And the AI learning within it is trying to show things you've got an affinity for, or users like you have more affinity for. It is very clever and has made a difference, and showed the potential in that. But we're about to hit a second test, because we really nailed it on mobile, but had a bit more to go out on desktop. So it's a great example of sort of iterating and going back again, taking the learnings from mobile and implementing them on the desktop side as well.
I think this is a big challenge we've seen in e-commerce generally, and testing probably more so. In the past, we used to have multiple users using the same device, right? So you might have, we used to always have the joke years ago was Amazon would recommend Davina's workout video to me, but it was more because my wife would be using my Amazon account.
If you say so, John.
Amazon's never wrong, right? Amazon's never wrong. But it was like, oh, you need to buy this. But now the challenge I think we all face is actually you've got the same consumer coming in on multiple devices, and you need to be giving them that same experience. So it's actually getting harder. But anyway, I suppose, Eoin, what other tests and other things have you been looking at aside from A/B testing that are going to impact how many holidays get bought online?
I suppose again we're device agnostic. I'd love people to buy everything online, but actually as a business, I don't mind where you buy as long as you buy through us. And I think the biggest thing we've tested with Luke and Mike is that as customers exit out of the checkout flow for whatever reason, they abandon their journey, we don't actually ever know where they go. So now we've tried to push a number of them, say, please call us, we can talk you through the tour, the product that you're looking at, and give them just a direct phone number. And we know that's actually highly engaging. We've generated a couple of hundred calls off the back of it, which for us is quite significant. And it allows us just to give us that depth of understanding. I think the next stage would be to remember where they've been and drive some personalization, because it takes a long time to make the decision. But when they come back into the site, they're almost starting fresh each time and have to find out where they were. You want to bring them back and try and say, hey, don't forget you were at this product level, or you were looking at this specific tour. I think that for me is one that we're going to
I suppose I'm now just thinking out loud, and this is probably something nobody's ever mentioned, so Luke's going to be like, why on earth did you bring that up? I'm just thinking, do you record your calls in the call center, Eoin?
Yeah, we do.
Could you feed that into some AI to get a transcript and then build out FAQs or content based on what questions they're asking on the phone? Because in theory, they're asking the question on the phone because they couldn't find it on the website. I don't know if that's something you thought about doing, but that seems like something might work.
Well, I suppose we're in step one of that, and I'll share a little bit. So we take a detailed survey from customers when they come back. We're lucky to have a customer base that wants to share a huge amount of depth with us. So if they, from almost day one, many of them will give us detailed itineraries. But we take that feedback and action it. So from where you stayed, the food you ate, the tours you had, what you saw, and then we take all that data, we've pushed it into some AI tooling, and then come back out with what FAQs do we need to change, and actually what do we need to change in the product itself to make it better and meet their standards as customers, because we're there to do a great job, but just send people on holiday. So actually, how can I make that better every year for you is great. And the next thing we're looking at, and the team and I were just kicking this around yesterday, was how do we build our own internal AI-driven merchandising tool. So a member of our pricing team is looking at actually, when do I need to drive price elasticity based on when my product sells? So we now know what our selling curve is, how long it takes you to buy it, and in which periods it sells. So actually, we can figure out if we're ahead or behind the curve. But I can take that data and then go, well, I know when I need to be pushing it for 8 to 6 weeks out based on the product view data. So we're going to start mashing that together to then drive into the web to go, well, this should be number 1, this should be number 2, this should be number 3. And that will take away a lot of guesswork, because it should be driven by how the business is performing. And actually, if the product doesn't perform, then the algorithm should actually fix that itself by re-pushing the right product to the top. So coming soon, kind of a third of the way through discussions on how we build it. But that's going to be really interesting.
That sounds really exciting. And I suppose, Luke, how have you sort of worked with other businesses or these guys and other ideas that aren't just A/B testing?
So I think a lot of the time we get asked to almost spot check a lot of ideas from businesses. So people might have a new website that's be designed and beautiful, and the worst thing in the world, I suppose, is you press the button and your conversion rate halves overnight, which occasionally does happen from time to time. So a lot of the opportunities that we get, or conversations we have, should I say, are around people saying, I built this new website, but I just want to check that it works in this way or this way. And, you know, my desktop might be different. Even things like brand new look and feels of websites and brand guidelines and such. So I think we do a lot of that in terms of testing. Does it work? Can we improve the conversion rate, and ultimately, as you say, the UX, and I guess the bottom line for all of us, revenues for us as a business, to prove that the work is going. So yes, offline conversions, as Owen said, things like third parties are a massive benefit in terms of checking, can we save money from here and there, depending on what's going on. But like I say, it's just about proving that ROI in everything you do from experimentation. So like I say, dev teams particularly, can we save £40,000 for somebody because we know that something's going to fail from a big development project or be a success?
It's almost like predicting which one we should and shouldn't do before we even get to the point of actually doing it.
Yeah, employing a development team to go make that change for you, because we already know that through our A/B testing that has worked for you.
Yeah, and for me, CRO just seems an obvious thing to do, but that's because I've been in this world for a long time. But for you guys, you've got to go convince your bosses to spend some money on this, and whereas they might also go, well, why wouldn't we just go spend another £5,000 or £10,000 on Google, and we know that that's going to do X. So I suppose, how have you gone around getting the buy-in? And it wasn't one of your MDs, but I have had conversations with other MDs before going, oh, we've finished testing. Right. So first of all, how do you get it in the first place? And then how do you manage that ongoing relationship? Because in my opinion, you can't finish testing. It's a bit like saying you've finished SEOing. It's just like an ongoing constant of, it's a bit like saying, right, I'm fit now, I can go.
Yeah, I was going to say the fitness analogy. I'm fit now. That's it. I've done.
I'm done. I'll just get back on the lager and the pizzas. Exactly. But I suppose, Jack, in your example and your business, how have you gone around and initially get the buy-in, and then I suppose the ongoing justification of what you're investing in? Because there's tools, there's time, there's dev costs, there's priorities of queues of changes on the site and all those sort of things. So it's not just the tool cost or the agency fee, there's other costs. So how do you do that?
Good question. I think initially we did use a little bit of paid search budget. I mean, the budget was to be used, however, but it was very much let's make sure we're using part of the overall marketing budget online to refine the conversion flow. And yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding. We're at a 78% win rate on tests. And we have a sort of quarterly roundup of those that we share with the senior team. And
do you only share the good ones?
No, we share them all. Share them all. And again, we talked about the losses. I always say, imagine if we just rolled that out without testing it, that functionality would be on our site at the moment, making things worse without us knowing it. Good intentions, but not the right result. So yeah, that's the case there. And yeah, Ian, our founder, who John knows very well and has ridden a bike with many times, is become more involved over the last 12 months. And yeah, he's now part of our sort of quarterly brainstorm sessions, I guess you'd call them, and is really sort of trying to take on the voice of the customer amongst our senior team. So yeah, he's really picked up an interest in what we're able to do. Really, the ability to show one on one screen and one on another, and have a result 3 weeks later is something that 5 years ago, as I said when I joined, we just did not have access to. So it's great to be able to put that in front of people.
Yeah. And I suppose from your point of view, Eoin, you've got a big site, big product, it's a big history, and people probably a bit reluctant to fiddle with it. And how do you go around convincing everybody this is a good idea?
Yeah, it's been an interesting 18 months because I suppose when I joined, the business was very much an offline focused business. It was print production, it was print advertising, it was all world media, and even to go heavy into PPC and heavy into driving people online was completely alien. So now we've kind of exited out of that. The last 6 months have been trying to get the guys to figure out how we squeeze out the extra ones and twos through the web, and working with Luke and the team. And I think because the web has grown so much in a year, the buy-ins almost is pretty much there from the outset, especially in terms of testing. It's fine. I think the next stage becomes, we do a test, it's great, and then we figure out actually how much it's going to cost to develop. That's always the next hurdle to go over, because then you're fighting a little bit further pot. You can prove your performance and where it will go, but there could be something else equally as important that needs doing that could save more or do more. That is sometimes one of the harder things. So you can be really successful, drive the win rate, and you might have to leave that test running that little bit longer to prove out its longer term revenue. In particular, because we've such a long consideration period to buy. But actually, having the C-suite's all in for digital, so they're all there and just want to do more. But we just got to kind of work within the confines of our budget a little bit at times.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things. As I think almost a bit like Jack was saying, and it's sort of like what you were saying before, you were offline and then you got into this. It's like you don't really know how impactful it's going to be until you get into it. And then once you start getting everybody on board with the journey, and one thing I was at Google conference last Tuesday, and one of the things they were talking about is getting senior stakeholder buy-in, and also almost like they're running sessions now for commercial directors and FDs about how the metrics work online. Because sometimes you get asked a ridiculous question like, well, we want to reduce cost and we want to increase this. And it's like, well, you can't have both levers. It's one lever or the other. But they're like, no, just go away and make that magic happen. And you've probably had those conversations before.
Yeah, that is my favorite.
Do you want my favorite question, John? Yeah. What's our existing customer conversion rate?
Yeah.
Try and answer that one.
Yeah.
I think when I was at Every, a very similar question. So Every being a parcel business was like it's very lean and it's focused on selling at a penny level almost. And when we were testing, and we were doing a lot of testing, if the question ever came around, actually, how can I spend less in my acquisition? And it was very cheap to acquire customers to send a parcel. And how can I drive more through the funnel? But actually, how can I spend less overall? That was a regular question you'd get towards the end of the financial year. Still wanting you to drive through the funnel and make it better, but actually save at the same time. And it's a very hard kind of question to balance.
Yeah, and arguably, CRO is the thing in the middle that can do that and sort of testing. But yeah, it's everybody wants more from less, and sometimes that it just doesn't work that way. The formulas don't add up. And I suppose and this wasn't on the questions list, but I'm gonna ask you this question anyway. I suppose what makes a good client agency partnership from your point of view? Obviously, you've got lots and lots of different clients, and you invited Jack and Eoin on here, so I'm assuming they're two of your favourite clients. But how does a good engagement, because this, unlike some services, so let's say like PPC, we can get given an account, a brief, some targets, and off we go, and we're working in the background optimizing, doing stuff, and there's lots of reports and dashboards, but there's probably less two-way teamwork and conversations. So what is, I suppose, the requirement from the client side, and investment and effort and approach? What makes a good client from your point of view?
I think it's those open conversations, and I think with both Great Rail and Sigma, like understanding what the wider business objectives are. Look, we all want to optimize conversion rate, but as we said, there's nuances to each of them in terms of what we want to do, and knowing things like the with Jack, the dual ML stuff. This is something that's going to help us from this perspective. So this is the cost that we currently pay. What ROI do we need to achieve to be able to do to make sure that this new product is going to work? And I think that's the bit where CRO becomes really powerful, because it's not just you're at the end of the funnel, I suppose, knocking in the goals, or whatever you want to call it, and understanding that wider bigger business picture is where it gets really powerful, I suppose. And again, the same.
You like providing the assist and then Eoin scoring the goal. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's better. Yeah, more of a Jude Bellingham in the Euros than
You're the Jude Bellingham. Oh,
well,
wow.
I suppose he scored, didn't he, at the weekend? So maybe not Jude Bellingham, but yeah, more of the supporting from that perspective makes CRO powerful. And I think it's not just about then, all right, there's the ones and twos that are up. It's about the bigger business picture is ultimately you want to be experimenting on everything. That includes your PPC, SEO, including the website and CRO. So, and I think giving that platform helps to do that. And I think knowing those numbers really helps. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. And I suppose from your guys' advice, how would you go about, so we've got people on the call today listening in, how would you advise them who's never run an A/B test or a CRO program before? What would you be saying to them? Where do they start? What do they need to do? And the answer isn't pick up the phone to Luke and book in a call, but what I suppose you had to do that at some point. So how did you sort of do it? And what if, knowing what you know now, maybe how would you do it differently?
My advice would be to find a way to jump in as soon as possible. Find a tool that you can get on site easily, has some functionality, and just run away and start testing stuff. Don't jump in at the deep end and try and do the checkout page and stuff like that, where you've got quite sensitive stuff around payment details or whatever. But get something on a homepage, get something on a product page, change the font, change the size, put a new image, whatever you've liked or not liked. Just get involved and get started, because as soon as you start to unlock some of those early things and you notice the way that customer behavior changes from one version to another, I think it will lead you on a path that can be quite powerful. And hopefully in the future you are doing these bigger tests that find you a 10% uplift at a certain key point, and when you roll that out over a year, start to really see big benefits and uplifts.
Right. And Eoin, yours?
The same, really. I think the biggest thing to do is jump in and do it, because actually you won't get any support without finding the numbers that kind of support your hypothesis. So being able to find a free bit of tooling, trying to find some free time, or actually just spotting the black hole in the numbers, because within your own website and with anybody else's website, there's always going to be that place where people are falling off, bouncing and exiting high. And you need to answer that question. And you can either go and ask the customer and just do a quick survey online to figure out the why. So if you can't test it and you can't put any tooling in there, go and ask them and use the data to go, well, actually, we have a glaring problem.
And I suppose the other thing, and this is just me thinking out loud again, is understanding is, well, what does good look like for my business or my industry? And like, what is a good conversion rate in luxury holidays for the over 60s or for performance bikes that cost X. And actually, I suppose the other challenge, I suppose you'll have, Jack, you'll have a different conversion rate for gels and tubes to you do for bikes, and then baking that into the reporting and the numbers and everything. Yeah, that's a sort of interesting challenge. But I suppose understanding how you can benchmark that. And but anybody, we've got a question. I'm just going to come around to this, David. I'll answer your question in a second. But if anybody is on the call, we'll follow up with this. And if you do want a quick sort of CRO overview, we'll happily take a look and potentially load it into the Ask BOSCO tool. I just thought we could easily do this and benchmark you against your peers and just say, right, how do you stack up? And see. We should have thought about that in the rehearsal. But we can absolutely offer everybody on a free quick CRO benchmarking test. So we've got a question in here. What seems like a nice sweet spot as for traffic numbers? And then I suppose, how long do you run your tests for? What's the sort of, is there a minimum level of traffic? So I don't know who wants to take that. Luke, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm happy to take it, unless anybody else wants to. So I guess the as always, it depends.
Brilliant.
The two main things that you're looking at though is how big the change is. So the bigger the change, the fewer the lesser the volume of traffic that you need for a test to be statistically significant. What we can actually do, what there is online, is there's some really, really good like pre-test calculators out there that'll tell you how long, if depending on how much traffic you've got, it'll take. So you bang in your sessions on your landing page, how many sessions it'll have, and then tell it what the conversion rate is and what you expect the uplift to be. So 5-10%. I think we average out around 7 at the minute for all our tests uplift. So you put that in it, it'll tell you how many days you think that test will run for. So I guess that's the easiest way to do it. Again, there's things like Ask BOSCO that can.
Are there sort of some sites that just aren't going to get enough significant data that actually it's probably not worth investing in the tools and the time? Because these guys have both got big sites with lots of traffic. So there is probably X thousand a week, a day, or whatever. It's less than that. It might not be worth doing.
Yeah, to an extent, and like I say, it depends on the volume of the uplift. So if you had, let's say, 500 sessions a week, you'd need a very, very big uplift for it to be worthwhile.
Justify the effort. Right.
And then obviously you've got your tool costs in there and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, you'd need a little bit of traffic. I'm not going to lie to you, but like I said, these pre-test calculators will tell you how long they need to run for. And
that's good.
Even very worst case, you can run it in the background for even 60, 90 days, and there's no harm. It's just telling you only 50% of your customers will see it or not see it. So it'll then tell you over time what it'll be. But that's what I'd do, obviously, if I had a site with a lower volume of sessions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just conscious we've run over time. So that flew by. And I found it really enjoyable. Hopefully those listening and those watching the recording afterwards or who've been following the live stream have enjoyed the conversation. So I'd just like to thank you all for joining us, and thank you for your sort of ongoing support and pushing Luke as hard as you can. Feel free to push him harder. But no, thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks a lot, Eoin. And thanks a lot, Luke, for organising and arranging that. And just one last thing is, if any of you are in London on the 3rd, or could be in London on the 3rd, we're hosting a session all about AI for agencies and brands. We've got an expert in SEO AI. We've got an excellent branding guy who believes that AI is never going to replace branding, because you're not going to build a dyslexic AI, which I think is going to be fascinating. He's a phenomenal speaker. And then we've got someone from KPMG talking about the economy and bringing us back down to earth about the state of retail. Someone talking about, is Google actually incentivized to stop click fraud and ad fraud, and should you be doing something about it? Emily's going to be launching our new generative AI dashboard, so you can just ask it questions. And then we're going to be interviewing a large agency who uses loads of different AI in reporting. And then the speaker that's just, in fact, we'll make the exclusive announcement now because it's not on the website, I don't think yet, is we've got a lawyer coming in to talk about the implications of using AI in your marketing and where do you stand with that. So if you're churning out buckets of content, who owns that content? Who owns that image? What happens? And I suppose there's lots of things in the press recently about famous people having their voice or their image ripped off, and what do we do about that, and where do you stand, and how comfortable are you with that? So if you're available on the 3rd, breakfast at a fancy members club in London, and lots of interesting and engaging content. And that just leaves me to say thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, Jack and Owen and Luke. Speak to you all later. Thank you.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.